Welcome to the Black AF1 Pod. I'm your host, Roy, and with me is my ever glowing co host.
Nina, is that my name? Sorry, I wasn't too sure. It's so weird because obviously I'm back in Nigeria now, so the detachment between my actual name and you calling me Reina is even more because I'm having more in-person contact with people
Yeah.
who are saying my name. I'm feeling like at this point maybe I should just reveal my name. Anyways, oh my god, guys. I've missed you guys so much because obviously the week right after Canada was so boring. Nothing really happened. So we decided to have an off week. And yeah, I'm back home. And this last week has been a literal, actual shit show. I guess it started towards the end of last week, but we decided to like combine it, thinking it wouldn't be a lot. But by like Tuesday, we already had like an hour's worth of info that we needed to talk about. Anyways, welcome back everybody to the Black Hair Fun Pod. And yeah, I have a cold, so if I sound different, that's probably why. But yeah, I'm so glad when I are taking you just bringing you this episode because it's gonna be a good one. Probably do serious stuff first and then race stuff second.
I feel like honestly, um, if this race wasn't so good and at the same time a little like not as good
If
as
it
it could have
wasn't
been, but
so fun, no, if it wasn't
yes,
so
if it
fun,
it would have
this
been a
episode would
very
be
it was
very
super heavy,
heavy.
super duper heavy.
Like,
So
because at this point, I thought it would be one of those things where we would have like so much to talk about, like pre-race week and then the actual race weekend. Part of the episode would be short, but obviously so much happened in the race as well. So settle in, guys. It's gonna be a long one. Roy, do you want to start us off?
yeah, no. So funny enough, I feel like really where we usually kind of talk about the going ons in the F1 verse before we really get into the race weekend. Um, it really was summarized um, as really, I mean, kind of our name, right? Black AF1 Pod, right? Really kind of, and I hate the phrase, but the cross section where Black and Black people
Definitely.
meet with kind of
Yeah.
the broader F1
And
world.
obviously, like our bio and kind of our mantra for this, and I guess maybe it hasn't come into play as much this season, just because like Lewis hasn't really been in the spotlight, even though they still find ways to talk about him, has always been like bringing you F1 through a black lens. And I feel like that is ever so important with everything that's happened.
And it felt like it was one thing after another, all specifically about race. Because I think it started off the first thing I
Obviously,
wrote
like
in our
Jackie
notes.
Stewart,
Yep.
yeah.
So it started off with Jackie Stewart, and we'll get into it, but it started off with Jackie Stewart, and then it went on to Red Bull and Vips, and then it went on to Nelson PK and that whole kind of drama, and
And
it just kept
then
going one after the other,
and
day
then
by
Red Bull and
day.
PK, and then Max
Yep,
and PK, and then
yep,
PK again with a second thing. He was like,
yep,
"Oh, you thought that was all?"
and then adding on to it homophobia as well. So
So I guess we can take it chronologically. I guess.
Jackie Stewart, as always, running his racist mouth, began saying um, Lewis should retire. He should have retired, and he's missed his chance to retire on top. And obviously, not obviously, but looking at it with what Lewis said later in the week about these old men in
Bernie is also
F1.
someone we need to talk
Yep,
about.
Bernard, yeah, but he luckily, I mean,
Bernard. He
I,
wasn't involved in race. He was involved
yes,
in war, which is just
yes,
of all things. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Bernie got involved and was racist because just like especially in the F1 world, like that's something where like you can get away with. But like
yep.
of all things for him to say, like we'll get there, but like
But
that's
was
basically
just it was just so interesting because Jackie Stewart, whenever he mentioned Lewis, it's always out of pocket. It always has nothing to do with anything.
okay.
It's
So like
never
I
politic.
lost all respect I had for Jackie Stewart was when during 2020 in the pandemic, when Lewis started speaking about like racism in F1, and he was like, "Yeah, he doesn't know what Lewis is talking about. F1's not racist." Mhm. And I'm just gonna point out that like during this time, this off week, I've had like discourse with Chris Medland on the timeline. Obviously, you've been absent, but I've had like, and Korean Chandok has blocked me.
Wait, what happened?
Yeah, so
Bring this
basically,
tea up.
some journalist, I think who works in the paddock from like, I don't know what country, was like, there is a bunch of like white journalists and white people in the paddock rather who have like a racist word they call Lewis.
Mm,
And Chris Madden tweeted how like he's never come across any of that. And I quoted him going, "Oh, I don't like all due respect, I don't believe you, Chris. Like, what reason would you have to tell us the truth?" And then he replied going, and he had like obviously his cronies came to my mention, but he basically replied going, like he's sorry, I don't believe him, but he's never heard of any such thing, blah 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 blah. And then I was like, well, just because you haven't heard of it, one doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Then he was like, yeah, but based on his experience in the paddock, he can confidently say it's not happening. And I was like, well, based on my experience as a Black woman, I can tell you that if there's a space where there's majority white people, racism will fester and it will grow, especially if like there's one singular Black person for y'all to like attack. And then he was like, yeah, okay, like whatever, like keep. And then yeah, anyways, and then it turns out I think Kareem blocked me around then as well because I
I
have
mean,
someone shared his tweet today in a group chat and he had blocked me because he's
but
foolish.
but that's the thing. This is why when they say white people in general, when they say anything about race and talking about standing with, we need to listen, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, it's all lip service, right? Because they don't understand what they don't understand. The point is this: when Black people are telling you something is going on, or anyone, and then you want to say I had, based on my experience, guess what? Your experience means nothing, because if we look at literally every single political thing that's happened since George Floyd and long before, when this stuff came out about Lewis with Nelson PK, all of a sudden people are writing articles saying, hey, we need to listen to Lewis because this, that, and the other. And then almost immediately, as you're saying here, he's saying like, oh, based on my experience, I've seen this. And that's essentially what any and every single white person has told every single Black, Indigenous, and person of color when they try and voice their experience on any sort of thing. When they say, hey, this has been going on, they say, hey, I've been in that same space and I've never seen it, so it must not be happening. Well, guess what? We don't really care what you think. Either if you're going to tell us you're an ally, if I tell you something is going on, I don't want to hear about your experience. I want you to be like, okay, explain to me more, and then we will do. If you've never experienced it, at the very least you can say, okay, explain to me more, and I'm going to start trying to look for and notice it. But you telling me immediately, I've never seen it, and I've been here a long time, so it must not be going on. It just can't be going on, and it's it goes back to when we were talking about race of past episode, where I was saying the biggest enemies of progress and the biggest hindrances to any sort of progress in terms of racial reconciliation, real inclusivity, and actually moving beyond these issues of race and trans and LGBTQ issues is just people like him who think they are allies, but they are actively stopping it. Because if I'm dealing with Nelson PK, I know he's racist. Fine, people like him are going to pretend and they're going to help and help and help, but they're not actually helping, because when it's time to actually break down the real issues,
Exactly.
they're being a massive
It's
rebel.
like with Sebastian Vettel in Abu Dhabi. Like
Yes.
you've been saying you're Lewis's friend, you're Lewis's ally. Lewis gets treated badly like throughout the course of the season, culminating in this ridiculous thing that everybody knows is wrong. And you're trying to defend Messi. Like that is where your priority is that about how Messi's a good man. Like, why is that your focus? Like, I would say, like, as a black woman, I experience this doubly because as a woman, when women get like sexually abused or like feel uncomfortable by something a man has done, and like the story comes out, his friends are always like, "Oh, that's not the guy I know." Well, obviously, you're not the guy. You're not his target audience, are you? Obviously, that's not the guy you know. Like, it's always like people trying to like give character references. I don't remember what celebrity it was now, but I got accused of something, and so many of his friends came out like saying this person I know is a good person. Oh, it's Ellen. When Ellen's
Yeah.
stupidity
Yes.
came out, all these like A-list celebrities were like, "That's not the Ellen I know. Ellen's a good person," and I'm like, "Well, obviously, Ellen's a good person to you. Like, you're the you're the big dog." it's not the same as the way Ellen treats like lowly employees. So
Mm-hmm.
it's always like, why is someone else? And like we can transfer this into like just before we discuss like Nelson Piquet and Yuri Vips, but like Max Verstappen's response to Nelson Piquet and
Is
Yuri Vips's
is exactly
racism
what Chris Medlin
is
just said to you.
to forgive them, give them a second chance, but wait, they're not racist. Why is it? And there's like so many white people in like all over Twitter saying like, but that's not. People keep saying, and this is what has been triggering me all week. People keep saying, and like, I don't want to get lost in the thoughts. So basically, what happened was with Yuri Vips, he was streaming while playing, I guess, Call of Duty, and he said nigga.
Yeah.
And like for me, what was so telling in that video it's the way his friends were like, yo, Yuri. It's like reminding him, like, we're live. So
Yeah.
this is something they're used
It's
to.
exactly the
And then
same thing that happened with
second
the NASCAR
video,
thing.
in the second video was someone gave him like a pink hat or something, and he was like, no, pink's gay. And then Liam Lawson, I guess, was the one in the video, was like, oh, you can't say that, you can't say that. And for me, it's like his friends are used to him saying this in private, so they're not even shocked by the fact that he's saying it. And obviously, with Nelson PK, it came out that like he did a podcast after the whole Silverstone incident and called Luis Neguinho, which is basically the Portuguese not equivalent, but like Portuguese version of like derogatory term for a black person. Obviously, doesn't have I think the same historical violence that like nigga has, but also it has been used like black Brazilians will tell you it's been used like as a way to like belittle insult. So it does definitely have like it's definitely rooted in racism as well. And just to cover like the entire PK family, one of the cousins or uncles posted on Instagram about how this is they've been using this word in their family and that's what their grandma calls them. Like that makes it right. And then Kelly PK, who's also Max's girlfriend and Danny Kivian's baby mama, basically liked that post and also turned out to have a Spotify playlist called Black, but the A is like a devil emoji.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's literally all like black people, black artists. It's like niggas in Paris. It's like R. Kelly, R. Kelly. It's like Jay Z, Tupac, Janet Jackson. It's a fire playlist. I'll send you the link, but like that's
But quickly in what you're saying about the cousin showing how their family has always used that
mm-hmm,
in America, when people will interview the people from the South, whatever, their families in the South who obviously they're very racist have used the N word historically throughout, and they will say, "Oh, our family always used it. That's just how we meant it that way, and it wasn't
mm-hmm,
supposed to be bad." Just because you always use it as a family, and you want to try and lie and pretend that you're just proving just how racist your entire family are.
exactly,
It's not even like you're not
exactly. Like it's not a
excusing your father.
defense. It's not a
You
defense.
just condemned yourself. It's like you're telling on
And
yourself.
as I was gonna say before, like moving to what Max said, for me, a lot of things is the way people have reported this. Before I get to like the response of like F1 teams and drivers, but the way the news has reported it, people keep saying, "Oh, racial comments, racial." Just say it's racism. Like there's no need to sugarcoat it. They keep trying to like dart around the word racism, like they're allergic to it because they're trying. What they're trying to do is obviously, and we know this, it's basically make it seem like the comments are bad, but the person is still not a racist. Because that's what they're doing. Even with Yuri Vips, they're framing it as like, oh, Yuri Vips just obviously was playing a game. And I don't know if you saw High Tech, which is Yuri Vips' team, their response to this whole
Yeah,
situation
that was awful.
included, why was he even playing this game? Doesn't he have better things to do? And I'm like, mm, why is this where your priorities are? Why is
You
this where your
see,
priorities
you
are?
see, for me, when it comes to these people, I don't expect them to like. I don't know how much of it is a legal thing where they don't want to outright call somebody something for fear of being sued. But one thing I did actually like in terms of how it was being is that, and this was very, I also noted this in our notes. This was very different to how Lewis in the past has addressed these type of situations, because usually he will try and like say, hey, I condemn these things, but like I'm focused on being positive. And this is the first time I've seen Lewis saying, hey, you've had plenty of time to learn. Now is a time for action.
Exactly.
And I think the moment he said that, None of these journals, the FIA, F1, they could not ignore it. The moment he said now is a time for action, they had to do something because if they didn't, he basically strong armed everyone into doing something. And when they've been talking about this, they haven't gone. I haven't seen anyone call him racist, and I don't expect to. But a lot of the articles I've seen some saying he apologized for racist remarks, and I've seen other ones which are better ones where they say he tries to pretend he didn't apologize for something we all know is racist. Like not those exact words verbatim, but like at least in terms of headlines and how they're trying to portray this, it has been the most
Sorry, is this Yuri
scathing
Vips
as
or Nelson
no,
Piquet?
this is for Nelson. When it comes to Yuri Vips, I think for the most part, I mean, even F2, I think had a better response in the team because obviously the team
No, of course,
didn't
no.
drop him. Yeah,
F
they had
two
a good
had like a
response to
good
it.
response. I feel like because they were like, if we were in the position of the team, we would
We
drop
don't
him.
agree.
Like
Yeah,
we
they're
would,
like we definitely don't
yeah.
agree with this at all. So, but funny enough, another Red Bull driver is the one where racism. It's very interesting where we can always trace the most amounts of sewage and racism coming from very
Well,
similar
the thing
sources.
is, I'm very convinced there are so many drivers who are as bad as like
Oh
Red
yeah,
Bull drivers. The thing is, environment allows you to foster growth, and in this case, the negative environment allows you to foster like you're more comfortable with your
exact,
beliefs
more
and
comfortable.
you're
Yep, exactly
like
that.
you just feel open into doing it.
Hmm.
And like obviously as I initially started this going about Max Verstappen's response, but he's basically asking us, telling us that these people are not racist, and asking us to give them a second chance. But a second chance implies someone has made amends for what they've done. Starting with Yuri Vivs,
And
his
admitted it.
apology,
Not even just immense,
he
admitted it.
he mhm. Yuri Vips admitted what he said, but he tried to make it seem like his apology was one of those ones that annoy me, where like they detach the situation and make it seem like it's a third party thing. These
Hmm.
remarks, no, it's remarks you made. It's
They
not
don't.
like
Yeah,
these.
they're not
It's,
reflective of who I am as a person. You
yeah,
felt
and I'm
pretty
like,
darn comfortable saying them.
you said it. Like it's not like why can't people just take apologize straightforwardly? What is with like, oh, these remarks don't reflect? Of course they reflect you. You're the one saying it. They reflect you. Like calm
In the
down.
most
And
comfortable
then
setting too. It's not like it was a high press, so high stress. I mean, even then, it's still a reflection. But like you are with your friends, you are enjoying yourself, you are having fun, you are at the most you possible. You can't say there's external factors. You can't say I had a bad day. You can't say this person did this to me. You can't say this and that. It is literally you enjoying your time with your friends. And all the time, I always say this: his friends calling him out, saying, "Hey, you shouldn't do this." Like I'm not saying that they also do the same things and say the same things, but I would not be surprised if they didn't. And it's obviously when people say things on stream,
of
they
course
people always say that people will say that people tend to self regulate themselves a lot more when they stream because I used to stream some of the games I play. So when he's streaming, he would have he would know probably shouldn't be saying these type of things. And so for them to slip up, it means when he's offline, when he's just
he's
hanging out with those
worse.
people, he's going to be significantly worse. And so these are this is very much who he is. And so it
And for
with the whole Yuri
me,
Vips thing, I didn't even deal with that
obviously,
too much because he's too low on the totem pole and he's already lost his Red Bull sponsorship and he's gonna lose
no.
more. I don't see him having a future, really.
But for me, what was interesting about the Eurovips thing is very much it's very much where I want to draw a parallel between Eurovips and Max Verstappen.
Okay.
Because when it happened, his fans were defending him using the excuse of he's just a child when he's not. He's an adult. And the same thing happened when Max defended Yuri and Nelson. Red Bull fans, Max fans who like aren't Yuri fans or whatever, and Nelson had like condemned Nelson Piquet and stuff, and were saying, "Don't involve Max and Kelly. They didn't do this." And obviously, when Kelly did it, it's like Kelly's not his girlfriend. Kelly's not his girl. Max is not Kelly,
Oh,
and
and I
Max is
have
not
some words
Kelly's
about Max
father.
pretty soon when you're finished talking.
Then, obviously, then they were saying, "Oh, Max is a child." Like I had more like I saw this particular one that like I want to read out to you that was absolutely when I say redonkulous, like you won't even believe this is something that someone wrote on the
But that,
internet.
but while you search for it, this whole "they're a child" excuse has been used. For me, I'm in the American context, so I can only use that. But it's something that's used all the time when we see these kids get online, and this is an adult, but these kids get online and they get
Yes.
onto, sorry,
No, I said even the kids who are shooting,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah, shooting
excuse people are
exactly.
using.
But like, no, they get on there, they'll get on Snapchat, they'll post all these racist things, they'll send news, they'll do all these things, and then when the school calls them, they're like, "Oh, oh, please, it's okay. He didn't know it was wrong." But come on, man, this is an internet generation. They know what they're doing, and I'm sorry, it is 2022. If you don't know you shouldn't be racist, then it I don't know what to tell you. You're an adult at this point. I'm not taking your kid as an excuse. If you are old enough to be out there on the internet, you are old enough to not be racist. And so it's always just a smokescreen to try and appeal to them being a youth. And we've also seen when it comes to Black people, everyone always tends to see them as older, and they always hold them to much, much higher regards. And so
Like especially
even,
with cops and stuff.
yes, even in the excuse itself, it is racist. It is a racist excuse.
Mhm.
Sorry, did you find the?
Anyways, yeah, I did. So basically, someone tweeted, I had faith in him. Somewhere deep down, I know there's a good kid in there. But no, he has to open his mouth. I simply can't express how fucking angry I am at him. And I'm like, okay, don't call him a kid, but that's fine. And it goes, also, Red Bull, you had one job to navigate him through this. You failed as a team. And now I hate Red Bull as much as the next person, but how is this their fault? This is an adult. Like, he can take responsibility for his words and his actions.
Yes.
If I, as a Black woman, have to engage in meaningful discourse and racial conversations with the most obtuse and dumb and stupid of people, then he, at the very least, can think before he opens his mouth and discusses racism. And there were people talking about how the topic is just very complicated. I'm like I've seen complicated racial conversations. This is
It's
not it.
not.
This is
There's
literally not
zero
it.
nuance in
This is
this.
like, and I don't believe in black and white. I believe in gray areas.
There's
This is
zero
black and
nuance
white.
in this.
This is black and white. There is literally like no two ways about it.
But that's the thing. Again, I will always go back to this. If you are in a specific, and this is very specifically in this, if you are streaming, everyone who streams understands just how strict Twitch and so many of these other platforms can be. So you are always on guard, watching and regulating yourself and how you speak. And so if he can do it there, if he can slip up there, because you notice his friends immediately notice, if he can slip up there, what he's doing in his personal life is worse. He knows what he's doing is wrong. Okay. This is another one of those instances, to use another like overused statement. He's not sorry for what he said. He's just sorry that he got caught. And I don't feel bad for him. His for me was super close cut case, and he's too low. And I figure more likely than not, he's not like a front runner in F2. So like it's not like he has a long, like he has a real pathway to F1. And he's already lost his Red Bull sponsorship. I'm sure a lot of other sponsors are not going to want to touch him if he's not super impressive anyway. So like ultimately for me, he's on his way out. For me, what was a lot more interesting was Max Verstappen, and kind of how initially when the whole Nelson Piquet thing came out, and I saw that he condemned, as they all do, racism. There was no specifics. He didn't mention anyone. He just said, yeah, being racist, you got to be an idiot. Just don't do it. But then when he was specifically asked about Nelson Piquet, that's when he kind of gave his whole, it's not my job to do it, but also I know him and I don't think he's racist. The Chris Medland, I've been in these areas, I know these people, and I've never seen it or heard it, so it can't be true, right? Like my lived experience is the only objective truth in this matter. And while somebody said something, they've experienced something because of my narcissism and because I believe my whiteness is the true exemplifier of what goes on in these spaces, I'm going to tell you because I haven't experienced it, the people I know haven't experienced it, that it can't be true, right? But then at the same time, they'll say, oh, but we have to listen to Lewis, we have to believe this. But that's a digression. So when it comes to Max, right? You also pointed out to me because when you saw me updating our notes for the show, you were telling me, "Oh, and hey, did you see these things Kelly Piquet did? She liked this post about her cousin defending her dad and saying they always use this word at lunch and dinner." And so for me, I wrote this, and this is a question I'm positing, and it's a rhetorical one. Um, Clearly, Kelly Piquet was around for all these racist things. And clearly, when people are defending her father, she is quick to like them. So she can't think what her dad think is all that bad. If my parents said something racist, you're not going to find me going around liking people defending the racist thing they said, right? I might, I'm not going to maybe if they're my parent, I'll respect them to not just go out in the media and like do all this hoopla and I'll pull them across to the side in private, but you're not going to see me in public liking defenses. So it's pretty clear that she harbors the exact same racist sentiments her father does. She might be smart enough to not mention them, but she still has them, right? And so the question I have is if you are if you are dating someone, and let's pretend for a second that Max isn't racist and hasn't done racist things in the past. If you're gonna date somebody who is racist, are you also a racist? If you are okay with somebody and their family past and present, being racist and consistently racist. What does that make you? Right? And that's the question I had for Max, right? It always comes back to like people are always so very clear about these type of issues when it has anything to do outside of race. When it comes to, oh, hey, if your parent does this about has these hyper misogynistic thoughts, it's not okay. You can't defend this, you can't defend that. In this case, if you are still uber supportive of Max and you think everything he does is good, fine, and dandy, it's an issue, in my humblest opinion. If I know the person I'm with is a massive is a homophobe, is a misogynist, is a transphobe, like is racist, like all of these things, it is untenable to me when I'm looking at athletes as support. When I'm looking at friends, what any person close to me or in a public position, if I find out that they have really horrible and negative opinions to other people and people groups, for me, I cannot be their fan. I cannot separate somebody's personal from who they are in their professional or whatever have you. And so for me, if you like Max Verstappen still, if for whatever reason all of the very racist things he's done and said in the past and didn't qualify, we can see with Nelson Piquet and his family, like they're not kind of sort of racist. And he's already said, oh, Nelson isn't that racist. So if he can excuse this racism, what does that make him? And not only what does that make him, what does it make you as a fan of his, as a supporter of his? If you are not okay with other people um, excusing child abuse like that of Jos Verstappen, and you think anyone who likes Jos Verstappen and will entertain him is a problem, what does that make with you who are okay with somebody who is with somebody who is a racist and continues to have harbor racism? For me, I don't understand how you can be a Max Verstappen fan in light of it just doesn't make sense to me. It has never made sense to me. And Reina in the past has gotten upset with me when I said I can see other people having good reasons to like Max, right? Only for them. I don't necessarily agree, but fine. But again, I don't understand how you can be okay with somebody excusing and dating someone racist. Again, that's just my opinion. Sorry for my
Yeah.
little side
So
rant.
like, no, I do this all the time. My answer to you is, what does that make him? I know it's rhetorical, but I have an answer. It makes him a racist. And like this, there's been a lot of people today who have been or no, over the weekend, whatever, saying they can be disappointed in him and still be a fan of him. This is where I want to launch into the conversation of privilege. A lot of
Correct.
F1 fans have the privilege to support people and ignore their problematic behavior by going, it's like Daniel Ricciardo. He has so many fans who are like, oh, I haven't forgiven, like, I'm still so disappointed. He sang the N word, whatever. I was arguing with one on the timeline today, but doesn't mean I can't still be disappointed and be a fan. You can't. You can't. Like, this is not something you should be disappointed about. This is something you should hate someone for. For me, I think right, like do you want me to be honest? I want racists to die. Every single one of them. If you're racist, I want you to die. I don't want you to reform. I don't want you to get better. You hate who I am for the color of my skin. If and by the way, let me be clear what I mean by racist. If you're a racist, you're a racist. If you're not outright a racist, like you don't say N word or whatever, but you kind of move when black people come, you're a racist. If you engage in microaggressions like Lando Norris, who keeps calling Jesus instead of Joe, instead of learning how to say his name, or at least making an attempt, you are racist. If you defend any of the above people, even if you don't like, if you defend them, even if you don't believe in the same things, you are racist. If you support any of them actively, engaging in supporting, spending your money on them, you are racist. All of you, there's not a single difference between any of these people for me. There's nothing like degrees of racism. You are basically by saying I can be disappointed in him and still support him. You are basically telling me this person may not care about your life doesn't matter to them, but I will still support them. Like, that is because racism is not an issue for you. It is not a contributing factor to you when you wake up, when you think about things. I live, I breathe, I die on the fact that I am a woman and I am a Black woman. It is my entire identity. Everything about me I can hide. My religion I can hide. I can decide not to wear my scarf and hide what my religion is. I was not born, like I was born a Muslim technically, but I can change that. Me being a Black woman, there's not. I am a Black woman. I will be a Black woman from the day I was born till the day I die. And you are basically telling me my existence does not matter to you. Because if you even had an iota of feeling for the way I feel as a Black woman, the way Roy feels as a Black man, then you would not support, you would not lend your hearing aid. You would not say, oh, let me give them the chance to explain themselves. It is because you do not care about me. It is because Black bodies are disposable to you. Black bodies are just so disposable to you that you continue to associate with people who do not give a shit about Black bodies. So I don't want anybody to come to me saying, oh, I can still be supportive and be angry. That's bullshit. You can't because if it was something affecting you,
Exactly. That right there. That part.
you would stop supporting them. If it was something that affected you in your
That part.
person or people you loved or people you cared about, you would be offended. There's a reason people only fight for people. Like there's a reason why there has to be degrees of closeness for you to truly be passionate and feel something.
Mm-hmm.
It is why people don't understand. It is why Black people continue to scream Black queer lives matter, because white queer people are afforded a privilege that Black queer people aren't. And that's just the matter. We are Black people are the bottom of the barrel. So no
Black
matter the
woman.
subcategory, we are still a subcategory within that subcategory. So,
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to listen to your excuses. I don't want to be nice and have conversations. I don't want to educate you because even if I educate you, when it comes time to something that affects you, you're gonna turn around and try to educate me and tell me, ooh, do, 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 do.
Chris Evan
No,
right there.
shut.
Even when, even the people who in their minds would think they care, you have managed to finally get them to care enough beyond their own identity, right? When something now starts to once again re-encroach into their identity. I, you know, I've when with people like him, right? When you're, and I really wish I'd been on Twitter at that time because I would have had some good responses to that. But we finally broken through that. Okay, you know what? Yeah, racism is a thing. Everyone might have a problem, right? But they still have their bubble in which they feel comfortable. In this bubble, they still believe that like there's a certain sanctity within my sport, and because I'm thoroughly engrossed in these circles, they can't be an issue. And I have a theory. I have a reason why when you bring up things like that, Chris Menon was so quick to get defensive on is because a certain amount of his own identity and time has been placed into those spaces. And so when he hears that those spaces could be racist, he feels it is a personal attack. And he feels you are now saying, hey, I'm deeply invested in these groups. If you're saying that in these groups there's a lot of racism, that means that I'm engaging in racism because I haven't seen anything like it. And now they take it personally. And that is why, again, I will always go back. People who are who have an understanding of what racism is and do the bare minimum. But when then it comes time to actually doing real work, they are always immediately defensive, are the ultimate enemies. They are the worst people. And those are the type of people who will always hinder progress because a lot of times when you have a racist person, you can always ignore them. And we know whatever their input is useless. People like Chris Medlin, when they're trying to say, hey, this thing is racist, now we have to get into the unnecessary nuance and the unnecessary pedantry of now I have to waste time to break down and show each and every instance. I have to gather information on something I already know you're not going to believe. So now, because you want to be helpful, because I have to go through, because again, Formula One and so many of these things are white. Now we're finally doing things that we could have done if they just were actual allies they try and pretend to be, and instead of their first reaction being defensive and taking everything personal, and understanding that like you are white, you live in a white world. Your lived experience will always be different because your field of view, you cannot perceive things that you've just never experienced. Some things you just need to hear, and then and once you've heard about it, look for it. If as a white person, if your immediate reaction to a black person calling you racist is to get defensive, then there's problems there, because maybe sometimes people are wrong in what they're saying about you. But if your immediate reaction to anything and everything that when somebody says the word race, racism, blah, 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 if you're always going to get defensive, you are the
You want
problem.
to fight.
You are always a problem, point blank, period. You cannot be defensive. In the same way, Reina has called out me on things I've done, even in my own personal. I'm a man, I'm a black man. There are just things I don't understand about people who, and also heterosexual. There's just things in areas I just don't understand. And so I always, when I hear anything about me or men, I I don't get offended, because I have this understanding that like there's just shit I'm gonna miss. And so there's some conversations that I have thoughts on, and I don't even want to voice my opinion because I understand it's going to be colored by a certain perspective. So I always want to hear certain things first before I speak on them. And that is what white people need to just do. Just get over your feelings. Like, you are not the center of the universe. Your hurt feelings will mend themselves, I promise. So again, ugh.
Just to like wrap up this whole quote unquote discourse is the like people like I feel like other people want to like Lewis for clout while also supporting the white driver that they really like. So they want to make you deceive us into thinking that this person and Lewis are besties and they're friends. Where were all these besties this week? Like, okay, I think Ocon, Ricardo, Leclerc, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I think four of them came out with PR statements, and that was it. That was it.
Maybe Vettel. I don't know if Vettel came out with something by himself.
Vettel
With
doesn't have a Twitter
Yeah.
account, doesn't
Oh,
have
okay,
a
okay,
social
okay.
media, and I
Okay.
don't think anybody asked him about it in Silverstone. And literally only four of them, and like it was basic PR statement. And I think Ricardo had the best PR statement. And oh my god, the TL wouldn't stop fawning and thanking him. Thank you so much. I didn't expect him to do this. Oh my god. What does it say about you and your driver you're supporting that you didn't even expect them to comment on something that has happened to their fellow colleague? What does
Exactly.
that say? Look in the mirror at the person you're supporting. What does that say? I'm not going to thank anybody for doing what is below the bare minimum, because I think Ferrari is definitely the lowest of the low because they replied to Mercedes tweets of their own stupid PR statement. Let me know. Oh my God, we need to talk with Mercedes. But Ferrari replied to that going, oh yeah, we stand with you and Lewis. Or in the replies. Please, I don't have time for that nonsense. Fucking Pierre Gasly and president of Team LH, quote unquote, and fucking naked ass Valtteri Bottas that is always naked, and they're her so-called best friends on the grid. They were nowhere to be seen. Like today on the timeline, one Ricardo fan was telling me Lewis and Ricardo are friends. Blah, blah. That's not my business. Like, let me just clarify something for those of you here listening. Lewis is not friends with anybody on that grid. Lewis smiles and is friendly with everybody on the grid because he has no choice but to be so. Because if he allows himself even a little bit of room to show his real personality and like how he really feels in certain situations and like his frustration, like the articles in the newspapers that it's going to be filled with people insulting Lewis, people like talking about it, which is going to lead to like so much racial abuse against Lewis. And by the way, like I do believe Lewis and Ricardo used to be friends, but it's been a couple of years and you've noticed there's no more hanging out outside the race, and it's since the whole N1 thing came out. that is when it stopped. Is that a coincidence? No.
But I think what you're saying about Lewis, if Lewis gives himself, because when Lewis said his thing about we need to make change, right? It was they were all from interview questions, right? So somebody asked him, "Hey, this thing about Nelson PK," and he quickly commented on it, and then they asked him a follow up question. And in that follow up question, that's when he loosened up more and said even more. So Lewis is
Yeah.
always constantly neutering. And for me, like I don't know enough about Lewis. Whatever Lewis does, whatever, fine. But ultimately, the truth is this, right? We saw it from Abu Dhabi last year, and we've seen it whenever he has to deal with these racial issues. Lewis always is self-censoring himself in what he does and what he says.
Of
And so when
course.
Lewis is
We
very
don't blame him
nice,
for that.
when Lewis is very nice, when Lewis is very friendly, Lewis really could just be that friendly. But without a
No,
doubt, period, even if he
obviously,
is
like
that friendly, no, no,
I
this
don't
isn't
think
even against you. It's just in general. Lewis could be that friendly, but Lewis is that friendly, and he's also being more than he has to be. Those
and
two
for me
things
is that
exist at
I
the same
do
time.
believe he's friendly, by the way. Like I do believe he's friendly. I agree with you. But it's also there is no room for him to be anything but friendly. So no
Mm-hmm.
matter how bad his mood is, no matter what he's going through, which is
He cannot.
exactly why like Abu Dhabi was very frustrating and like the way people chose to like write about it. It was very like, oh, he's such a champion, his grace in no. You should be wondering why does he feel in a situation like this? He has to show grace.
Again, people who wrote like that
They
were
lack
again
critical
telling,
thinking.
they were just telling on themselves just how much they do not understand the black experience in a white world. If you see what Lewis did and you wrote that, fine, you are trying to really venerate him, but what you don't understand is you are doing him the greatest disservice, right? You are cementing the fact that he did have to do this, saying Lewis is this, that, and the other. In that moment, if you weren't like, wow, Lewis is actually gracious in defeat, but he has to be. If those two didn't exist in your writing, then you just didn't get it. You missed it.
Yeah, what you need to think is, oh my God, what kind of man is this? That something is stolen from him. And then you need to reason it and then think and then be like, oh wow. And then maybe ask questions. You can clearly tell these people don't talk to black people. Because like
Not just talk,
any
they
like
don't have real intimate
yes,
relationships with black people, who the black people aren't just their friends, but the black people aren't afraid to talk about real black issues. Because lots of people out here, lots of white people have black friends, lots of people hang out with black friends, spend a whole bunch of time with the whole black friends. But I guarantee you, with those black friends, when they go out into their other communities and with their other friends, those conversations are completely different. If the black people you're with have never had real conversations with you about race, and it's never come up, and anytime you guys talk about it's anything and everything but race, trust me, you have not seen them
yeah.
in their most real selves. Period.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving
Of
you
course.
the
I
version
agree
of
with you.
themselves that they believe is most palatable. They believe that, hey, if I'm any more black, if I talk about certain of these things, I don't know how they're going to come across. And if you've never had that, then there's an issue. Your black friends are your black friends, but it's not like a deep friendship.
And I feel like there's no need for F1 journalists and other drivers to change because Lewis is alone in the sense that like even the audience they're appealing to is also racist. It's very telling that like the only person and like even within Lewis fan base, non-black Lewis fans have a huge problem because it's very telling that the only person Lewis's fan, non-black fans were shitting on for their PR response was Naomi. Is that her name? Naomi Schiff?
Schiff,
Schiff? Yeah.
yeah, I think it's not Naomi
For
Schiff.
her
I don't
part,
know. I'm
yeah,
not
Naomi
sure.
Schiff.
I haven't heard it
She's the
yet.
only person. People that were thanking Charles and Daniel and saying, "Oh, I'm so surprised. I didn't expect this from you." We're shitting on Naomi. And by the way, I don't fuck with Naomi like that.
Mm-mm.
But like, why is it the black woman that you are harping on when she probably has the most to lose
Yeah.
if she says something too personal? Like if she says something too personal, like she's not built that success Lewis has, where like even with Lewis, we see him censoring himself, but like obviously Lewis has more room to like defend her with more personal thoughts than she does to do him. Like, and I did like before she spoke, I was like, oh, where's Naomi? She hasn't said anything. But I don't blame her. If like all these rich multimillionaires are just putting as big and basic ass statements, who is she like first couple months on the job to come and be like, yeah, this whole institution, blah blah blah. No, like no. And like if you see the way people were insulting her in her mentions, it was so goddamn fucking racist and uncomfortable. I
No,
felt so
I
bad
mean,
for her.
It just reminds me of some of the interactions I had when I was on Twitter, and I would say things to people, and I would get a certain response, and in the same conversations, the women who you and a few others who would also say something in those very same situations, the energy in which you guys were directed was way, way, way more vitriolic. And it and I said worse things to these people. And so it's always very emblematic that like again, as Raina was saying a moment ago, like at the lowest of the low will always be black women, and let's be real, black queer women. Like if you are anything outside of the most heteronormative lines, like you are always, and so that's the issue. So anywho, one last thing on this before we kind of get into the race review, the a little bit more fun uplifting part is that Lewis Hamilton again continues to be the best and greatest human being because
Real man.
oh, and in fact I'll also include something about George and even Lando here, but like the moment he heard booing from the crowd, he immediately condemned and said, hey, we're better than this. After a half a season, the entire like virtually half of a season last year, him getting booed at every
You mean
single
half
race.
the whole season? The whole season.
No, but it really ramped up after Silverstone and
Yeah,
post
yeah,
Silverstone. It happened everything else. A few
of
before
course,
that,
of
it was a
course, of
couple
course.
times, but like it was the
Of course.
entire. And
Yeah.
Max could not say one word.
No, he did.
Lewis said it
His
immediately.
word was
Oh yeah, yeah.
his word was
It's
just
not my job.
yeah, yeah. It's not my
Basically, it
job.
was my job. He's like, they're grown people. It's not my job.
Like, but
And on
Lewis
top of
also said, "But you understand their frustration after last year." I don't. This weekend, Lewis is very spicy.
yeah, he was dropping little gems. But here's the
What was
thing:
it?
George also was caught. I think somebody in an interview asked him a question, and he was commenting how this was the first time somebody called his name and booed him. He said at the race, somebody said George Russell and then booed him, and he was very, very bothered by that. And it was just one person. Okay, right now, remember, Lewis had this. Okay, people have been booed here and there. Yeah, 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 whatever, whatever. But like to have every single race, and this is prime Mercedes. So Lewis is gonna be top three from qualifying, and Lewis is gonna be top three at the main race. So he's not just getting booed during all the drivers' parade and yada yada yada. He's also getting booed at the prime time where it's getting televised, and this affects him. And so like if you want to be like, oh, booing is this, that, the other. George got booed by one person, and he felt that badly that he had to say it in an interview. Like, let's like Lewis is just better than everyone else, and he's more gracious and he's more humble because even to the very people who were booing him, he would always say, "Hey guys, thanks for coming out. We know you had to do this. We know you had to do that, and so whatever." And they're still booing him, and he's still being gracious. He is just better. We don't deserve him. F1 doesn't deserve him, and yeah, no, he's great. I really like Lewis. I love Lewis. Like he is F1. Like he is the reason I watch this sport. Anyway, so as we move into the race review, I'm gonna ask you,
Ooh, can
Reina.
we do like a quick quali review?
Yeah, yeah, let's do that. Because I was about to do the three words, so you better think about that.
So like my flight landed like 2:40 something, which is like 15 minutes before the race started. I had to
Oh,
go to, yes, I had to go through like
I thought you
before
were gonna
quali
be late.
started.
I remember. Yeah.
Before quali started. I thought I was supposed to start on the 3, started landing like 10, 12 minutes early. So by the time I got down, so my SIM card's not working. But by the time I get to like the queue for immigration,
Mm-hmm.
I get Wi-Fi. And like it's like a build up to quali. Like I think it started, but like not really like the beginning part of Q1.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm like waiting for my suitcase, quali started proper. Obviously, Alex Albon, friend
Not.
of pod, friend of show, friend of show. Alexander Albon gets out qualified by BTEC racing driver Nicholas
Oof,
Latifi,
oof.
um, king of mental health, Nutella Nick, who we did not hear from, by the way, who we did not hear from after this whole Lewis scenario, even though he's basically being paid and sponsored by like an anti-bullying campaign. We did not hear from him. Anyways, Nutella Nick has qualified Alexander Plenty Pet Albon, and I kid you not, I got like 10 messages immediately. Pop, 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 pop. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Let's see if I qualify. Because like what I feel like half my personality on this show is like hating Albon. Like yo, I laughed out loud and like I turned around and people were staring at me at the baggage claim. Also, when Verstappen spun,
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
I was literally about to walk out of the airport and he spun and I just started, I screamed, like I was cackling. I was, and just watch how like all the news articles were praising him about how like he was able to catch the car. And I'm like, okay, he made the mistake in the first place. Like, let's not forget that. It was
And then on top of spinning, the very next lap he went off the track. Like it wasn't just like, oh, one mistake and go on. No, he made it twice. Um, yeah, no, qualifying was actually very, very interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a little
wet
bit of
qualies are always
disappointment.
amazing.
It was a little disappointing just
Yeah, but I
because we
feel like we could
expected
have
more
done
for them.
better.
Yeah, and I think in the post race interview, post quality interviews, Lewis said before his final push lap, the team told him to hold off so he could push hard on the last one. And the last one, he said it rained a little bit more. So, and we could see that any bit when the track got just a little bit drier, everyone's time was dropping. So
Mhm.
potentially he could have landed
And at
higher. But
one
either
point, he
way,
was so close. I thought he was gonna finish
yes,
at P2 because
yes,
he
he did.
had
He
the
got
best
P2
pace
several
on
times. Oh
track.
my
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
If the Mercedes was a Red Bull or a Ferrari
Mm.
this weekend, Lewis would have been
Yeah,
dominating.
definitely. Because like it was giving Stereo 2020 when like
Yeah.
he finished like 1.2 seconds ahead of
His pace
Max.
is
He was doing
unreal.
that well today. Yeah, it was crazy. And you could
Unreal.
see it with like George was struggling to keep up with him in
Yes.
every single run. George was consistently
Struggling.
like five,
Like,
6 tenths
yeah.
ahead. You
Like
know, like
sometimes like every once in a while he'd get a 10th and then Lewis would put a fatter
lose
time and then George would
like
be
eight
able to match
tenths
it
a
for a while.
second.
Yeah. And it would be
Like
and they were running back to back. So it wasn't like the track was drier for Lewis and if anything, it should have been drier for George because he was following.
mhm.
So, but no, yeah, quality was great, and shout out to Signs. He's not our favorite driver, but he did get his first pole and he did get his first
He
race win.
did. Wait,
Yeah,
sorry, what?
Signs pole. He's never got pole before. Let's get into this race. So, what does he? Do you have a 3 word race review?
Can I make it four?
Go for it. We can break the rules today.
God save the queen. I'm feeling very patriotic today. I just feel like um okay, no, I have one. Can I give it?
Yeah, go for it.
Welcome home, Lewis. It just
That was that was so heartwarming. Wow, you really just changed my like. I'm not even capping. Like you really just changed my whole mood right there.
it was like I know like
That was
Lewis has
beautiful.
had issues in like with the UK crowd,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
and like just
very true.
British people
Wow,
in
the
general.
love they showed him was real.
No. British people in general, there's been issues, but like in Silverstone, it's always epic. Like it kind of reduced since like George and Lando came, but as long as it's not against them,
Yeah.
he gets it. He gets the and I felt like this year there were more Lewis fans than
Yes,
usual.
yes. Cause I remember I said this when we were
Because
talking
last
last
year
year.
there were a lot of like
So much
McLaren
orange. Oh
Lando
my
fans, yeah.
God! All those
There was
this
a
year
lot of Lando fans.
there weren't that many orange
Like
hats. There were a lot of
Lewis
white
fans
and
really
yellow.
they really saved for the last year going, we gotta come back. Like
Yeah.
it's so like it was like no, this is the best Lewis has like the atmosphere has felt for Lewis
Yes.
probably since Lando and George joined, because before that was when he had the when he used to crowd surf.
Mm-hmm.
So
But no,
you miss those days.
yeah, I did.
But
But
like those days,
I've seen the videos.
because by then like Jensen Button was like a
No, but
football
yeah, no,
team
the
memory.
crowd really was very, very loud. Like it wasn't even just when
They
he
were
started doing good.
amazing.
From the
And I
beginning,
feel
when
like,
Lewis was
yeah,
driving,
of
it was
course, yeah.
loud, way louder
And
than George and Lando.
I feel like
Note of that.
I feel like it's very much as well like they've seen what he's been through, and like okay, like maybe we like our white British boys more than him, but like fuck Nelson
People like to
Piquet,
like
fuck
an
Max
underdog, which is
Verstappen.
annoying. Yeah.
Yes, like they're very much like okay, he's been through this. We gotta like be there for him. Like,
Yeah.
and I it's depressing. It has to come to this, but
Yes.
also it's really, I'm
It's
glad he
whatever.
had that support
Yeah,
because that man is so British. It's crazy. Oh my God.
it is.
Did you
Yeah,
see the playlist he had on his Insta story?
I did. Yes, you
That man
did.
is so British. Let's just thank God he's not white because,
So
bro.
so my 3 word race review, it's a pun from Star Wars. Um execute multi 21.
Um, okay.
So okay, so here I'll do a quick one. So in Star Wars, execute Order 66 is basically when the Sith take over and they just kill all the Jedi, right? And so when Signs, not Signs, when Signs was basically like holding up Charles, and Charles was like trying to get like permission from the team to pass. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not gonna lie, Cleo Loki was very much hyping up Charles to do that. Yeah, she texted me about it.
Not you and Cleo being besties.
No, she just sent me a message about it. So she was like, "No, you gotta." She was just hoping Charles would just ignore team orders and just gank Signs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that is. So it was the hype to let Charles just be an old school dickhead and just ignore. But no. So anyway, where do you want to start? From the bottom or the top? How are you feeling today? Of our
Um,
race review. You want to start from the most exciting, or do we just really start from the
okay.
start of the race and talk about the crash real quick?
Okay, because I'm just gonna point out like I didn't really watch. So like for some reason, I don't know why my friends and family love me more, but like so
I
many
did
people came
peep
to
that. I
visit me
peeped. I
today.
peeped that. I saw that you were, and it was good. You needed that.
Like Casey, my soulmate came, my niece came, actually two of my nieces, my
Mm-hmm.
nephew came, and then my two best friends from high school came. They were the ones on my story. And so I was very much watching it on my phone and like I was kind of getting alerts from Chris Medlin. So I would only like unmute
Yeah,
it when like
you got the
something was
big beats.
popping.
Yeah, you got the big beats. Okay, so
Yeah.
then fine. So here,
So I
so
don't know what
I'll
happened with any of the little people except like Ocon DNFing.
yeah.
So take it
No,
away.
so here, okay, so I'll do this race review this time, and I'll do it chronological so it makes a little bit of sense. So the race, obviously, we start, and Lewis had like several people had really good starts, but Lewis had Abu Dhabi 2021 start. Like I don't know if he actually did, but I swear
No,
like
I
that
would be
man
as far as saying
drained his
Abu Dhabi
battery.
2014. Abu Dhabi 2015.
It was he because I remember I don't know I don't know if I messaged you or somebody else, but I was like, all I need is for Lewis to pass two people immediately at the start, and then like Max and
Brandon,
Charles to take each other out.
you don't love me
And
anymore.
I
You did
almost
send
got
it to
that.
me.
No, I can't remember who I sent that to.
Wow. You have other friends.
I really thought it was you. No, I don't. I have like 3. No, so anyway, so it was wild and crazy. It was a fantastic start, but obviously we had to roll it back. And so when we did, so obviously when that happened, I think some of the other cars were obviously vying for their own starts, and somebody got their put their tire, their front tire in, and it just caused a whole kind of collision, the train wreck.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
I saw that. It was crazy.
thankfully Joe was okay. Like his looked really bad because I remember when the cars were going around the first time, with the camera where it was positioned, I think it was following Lewis because he had a really good start. You could see Joe in the back just hurtling across the track, and that looked really bad. And so we got the red car or the red flag immediately, and they didn't replay it immediately, which is good. And it was radio silence for a while, but I think once they started, so they replayed. Eventually, they replayed the crash, but they replayed the crash before they told us. They replayed the crash before they told us what happened to Joe. So when they started, but it was long enough that it was like once they started showing the replay, I was like, oh, he has to be fine because they won't show us the replay if he wasn't
Obviously,
okay. And this is all
I
because of
knew
what happened with
Grosjean.
yeah, Grosjean.
Grosjean.
So it was all because of how they kept replaying people. So when he saw that, it was good. But um, this race was phenomenal. So many cars like got knocked out. It was really sad that we had to kind of have a restart. But if we're gonna just cover um, the major beats and the minor beats, um, we can start with your favorite McLaren team.
Why did Daniel Ricciardo finish 13 or 14? Like, why? He thought we didn't notice, but I noticed. Like I didn't know anything that I don't know anybody else and how anybody else finished. But why is Daniel Ricciardo in a 14 people race finishing 13th? I didn't hear any mechanical issues.
And do you know
I
who
didn't
beat
hear
him?
anything. Latifi, I know. Latifi is 12. How are you behind Latifi and you want me to take you seriously as an individual? Okay, so obviously you weren't on Twitter this weekend, but like there was a video going around on Thursday of like Lando playing on track with with Ricardo,
Yeah.
and like Ricardo like pushed a balloon in his face or something and they hit him or something stupid like that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously earlier in the day, Lando had done an interview where he was like, obviously he's still friends with George, but George is so much more serious now that he's in Mercedes. He's not the same fun guy, blah blah. And when I saw that other video of George of Lando and Daniel, I said, no wonder you think George is serious, because next to this clown, this buffoon, not even clown, next to this buffoon, anybody seems like a serious person. Because why are you always? You see my problem with Daniel Ricciardo here. He has like what 45 teeth, like seven more than the regular adults, and he's always shining them. He's always putting them on display. What exactly is there to be happy about? 13 in a 14 people race. That chaos happened, everything happened, and Nutella Nick, Nutella Nick, Canadian export is finishing in front of you. King of cured meats is finishing in front of you. And you think everything is fine in your career. And you think what? You're a serious person. If there's anybody that Jackie Stewart and his racist old ass ready to die self should be talking about, I should be saying, oh, by the way, this person needs to should have retired at the top is Daniel Ricciardo. He should have retired after that his 2018 Monaco victory because that's that's swimming pool photograph. I'm tired of seeing it.
On top of that, Lando should, I mean, he finished sixth. He should have finished fifth on merit. His team kind of wasn't the best strategist on his part, but regardless, Lando fifth, sixth. Meanwhile, Daniel Ricciardo 13th. Like,
My
that's
question is
shocking.
doing what, yeah? Because I know like the highlights of what happened in that race. I
Mm-hmm.
know like what happened with the AlphaTauris. I know like nothing happened to him. He was genuinely just that slow.
Off pace. Off pace. He wasn't in the accident. He was just off pace, period.
Sorry, did Vettel not finish in the points?
Yeah, Vettel is ninth.
You know
Matter of
where
fact,
Vettel started?
yeah,
Vettel started like in Q1 position, 17,
yeah.
I think maybe 18.
There's some Ricardo. Anyway, like I said before, I'm genuinely concerned for this man. Like, he's not coming back, guys. Like, I'm sorry. He's just
Really?
not.
Wow. Extra, extra, read all about it. Brum
Like, he'll
Wale
have
informs us Ricardo is not coming back.
if that's funny. If he has a good race, he just had a good race. Like, he's had good, decent showings. I'm not gonna say good. He's had decent showings, but he's just he, he's like he's over that hill. And maybe in the future, like, I don't ever completely condemn people. Like, maybe next year, if he has a seat, he could like show up. But I'm sorry, guys, it's
You know what
we're
I want to
asking for a
say?
lot.
Guys, maybe Daniel Ricciardo never left.
Oh
Maybe
my
Red Bull
god.
just made him look good. Maybe he's always been this
I knew
bad.
you're gonna throw that shade.
Because at this point, what do you want me to think? Like, it's not like his teammates are anything to write home about. Daniel Kvyat, Sasquatch Seb,
Sasquatch Stab, you just came up with that.
Max Verstappen in his accident-prone era.
Jesus.
Because he didn't even race a serious Max Verstappen.
He did not race serious.
He
He
raced
raced
he raced
boy.
a
He raced
he
Max when he
raced
was a
a
boy.
prepubescent kid
He raced a
that just
boy.
liked to hit the wall.
Yeah.
Nico Hulkenberg, who was allergic to the podium. Esteban Ocon, fresh out of a year
Yeah.
of F1. He
Yeah.
literally did not bring, he has not had a serious teammate. Obviously, I think Stash Squash Seb is the one you can say, okay, fresh off a full-time defending
mm.
champion. Okay,
But you've never rated
that's it.
him.
But then no, I have rated him
Have you?
Monza 2008.
Okay.
That's the last time I
Wow.
rated him.
Pretty Red Bull. That's so rude.
Yeah, I feel like Sasquatch Step and his children and his wife, every night they should say grace. When they're saying grace around their table and giving thanks, Adrian Newey should be the only name there. We
They
give
give
thanks
thanks
to
to Adrian
Adrian
Newman.
Newey. We give thanks to Adrian Newey. They light a candle for Adrian Newey because mm-mm,
That's funny.
mm-mm.
All
I
right.
don't even want to be the one to say this, but Alonso is a better driver than Seb and has
Of
always
course.
been.
I'm sorry, but that's
And
true.
has always been.
I mean, again, I hate Alonso, but I will never not like the reason why I hype Ocon over Alonso so
By
much
the
and when
way,
Ocon beats him is because I know Alonso is a better driver. But like the fact that he is a better
by the way,
driver and
Roy
he keeps
doesn't
getting
hate
his butt beat.
people. So the fact that Roy hates Alonso
Yeah,
is like,
I really don't like him. He's a bad person. But now K Mag and Mick, how do you fare that? K Mag didn't end up in the points and he lost.
where
He
did he
he was beat up
finish?
by Mick this weekend. Mick was
Yes,
P8, K Mag was P10. K Mag kept Stroll out of the points because Stroll was P11. Are you more confident? Mick had a good showing this weekend. I'll give him that. He was pretty racy.
okay.
And if Max didn't run him off the road, he
Okay.
could have got
So what's this
P70.
guy's name?
Which one?
Son of Seven.
Son of Seven?
Son of Seven. You see, this is my problem with Magnussen, yeah, and this has always been my problem with Magnussen.
What, lacking consistency?
Exactly.
He's like a
Because
yeah.
Magnussen is very inconsistent, and then he used to do that where he would make Grosjean look like a serious driver.
Oh yeah, he did. I always wondered why Grosjean would beat him, but whatever.
Exactly. And Son of Seven, like I feel like Silverstone is one of those tracks that anybody has to look because they all spent their whole careers
That's
racing
true.
in Silverstone.
Yeah.
They literally know that track like the back of their hands.
Either way, I just wanted to give Mick a quick shout out for doing better. He didn't crash. Max actually tried to take him out. Max reverted to
The barrier is
2021.
so low. Imagine.
Max reverted back to 2021 version of himself and ran him off the road. Wasn't investigated because it wasn't that serious, or they did and they didn't think it was an issue. Um, but yeah, and then sadly, Yuki. Then we'll get into our big teams. Yuki really, Yuki was really an enemy of progress for AlphaTauri this weekend because they were both in the points. Like,
I thought that.
I think Mick would not have had points. Not Mick. Magnussen wouldn't have had points if it wasn't for Yuki being an enemy of progress this weekend. I feel bad for him because I think that's two in a row because he was having a good race outside of that. Last weekend, he ran clean into a wall. Not last, but the previous race, he ran clean into a wall without anyone being nearby him. So hopefully luck changes for him, but I know that team meeting is not going to be fun for him. So now let's get into the big three. And I feel comfortable saying the big three now because if this speed
Not you
upgrade,
being cocky. Not you being
not
cocky.
comfortable. I'm not confident yet, just comfortable. Um, if this speed upgrade carries over to these next GPs, I think we have a triple header this weekend and then Hungaroring.
This is double. This is Austria,
Yep.
and then
I don't know
France
what's
and
after. Yeah,
Hungaroring are a double header.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. So we're coming up to because we're going to the Red Bull Ring. So
I hate that track. It's like
I
my
do too.
worst track on the set.
We always do bad at it, but we've always
Yes.
had good. But
It's not that we always do bad. We always have bad luck. It's the luck that's bad.
But here's the thing: we've usually had good straight line speed, and the Mercedes and the Red Bull has been better at the lower, mid, and lower speed corners. But this year we're better at the lower and mid speed corners to Red Bull. But then the Red Bull car is just good in general. Like it's good everywhere. Like we might be a little bit better.
Well, obviously,
so
streets are saying it's illegal. Streets are saying, have you
for
missed
real?
the news?
Yeah.
Oh
Wait,
my
what?
God. have you missed the news?
Wait, what happened?
Am I breaking the news to you? Apparently,
Yes.
Ferrari and Red Bull are both having illegal floors where they're doing this thing, and then it's
Oh yeah.
flexi floors, and it's
Oh,
making it reduce the porpoising,
please.
and they can't do that from France. So next week is the last weekend where they can do that. Apparently, they're enforcing the because
Can
the
you pray with me?
regulations say the floor.
Yes, we need to pray that it's
Yeah, so the floor has to be stiff, and apparently they've been cheating basically.
please God. Like
Both of them, which kind of everything now makes sense why like
they're
they've been supporting
so
each other,
good.
and no, not how good they are. It's that they've been
Oh,
supporting each other at all the team meetings and fighting Toto. Clearly,
oh, because they
probably
know
were
something.
covering for each other.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
makes sense. Well, fingers crossed. When did this come out? Was this is this today news or is this week news?
Yesterday? No, no, it's
Oh,
yesterday or today.
okay.
It
What was
came
I doing
out.
yesterday?
Broken news by
Oh,
the race.
okay.
We
No,
are
because
the race or
I was
whatever the
helping my
race is.
sister
Yeah.
build like this IKEA shoe cabinet. It's actually really dope. I'll send you some photos. I was helping her and she had a friend over who was helping us put that together. So I was pretty
It
much
was
doing that all
definitely
day after
yesterday
the
or
race.
today. I think it broke.
Okay, then please, man, do you understand how beautiful that would be?
Like it's Tia was like, guys, what if we have to apologize to W13?
Yo, because if they are actually cheating, then the W13 is low key still like
The
the best
fastest
car.
legal car, no?
Imagine W13. We're so sorry because I don't think anyone respects that car.
None of us, none of us.
I don't even think
Anyways,
Mercedes
do
respects
we
that car. But no, yeah. So I feel I feel comfortable in saying that we've joined the big three. Fingers crossed. This new news you're telling me is real because that would be
Big Three
lovely.
gives me like tennis PTSD when you say that, because that's what they call Rafa, Novak, and Roger.
So in our big three discussion, do you have a preference to whom we talk about first, or should I just take it away once again? I have no problems.
I'm gonna let you just be interested,
All right, sounds good. So I'm gonna
which
start
is
off.
hard for me.
So I'm gonna start off with our race winner, Carlos Sainz. Um, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. The stars aligned for this man today. Like they really did. Yesterday,
Everything.
yesterday he earned it. Like he did what he needed to do. He made the least mistakes. He was the most conservative, but he did what he needed to do. Today the stars aligned for him because Ferrari, as because you said this to me many times, Ferrari just throws away like through their strategy. You were saying they just keeps throwing away strategies. Like when you were saying when it was Seb versus Lewis, like Ferrari, the team would like it was like they were allergic to winning. You were saying, and that's what they were doing today because they should have let Charles go and get whatever he needed to do and let sign, but they were waffling. And as a Mercedes fan, like I was happy because that Lewis was
Okay,
catching them. But
that
as
scenario today literally gave me flashback to like Vettel Raikkonen. Because what would happen is Vettel would pit early to try and undercut Lewis,
yeah,
and then he would get stuck, or like I don't know, he would be ahead of Lewis, yeah, and then he would pit early. No, 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 he would be behind or ahead. I don't know. They were around the same place, but anyways, he would pit early, and then earlier than Lewis, and then he would get stuck behind Raikkonen, and like they would wait so long to tell to finally decide that they wanted to tell Raikkonen to like allow that by that like Lewis would just
yeah.
then he just
I,
ended the
I
race like
just
10 seconds
it
ahead.
just made it was so stupid. That's basically where the whole like execute multi 21 because it just didn't make sense. Like, fine, whatever, Signs got his pole, but like he's slower. And again, this is Charles with missing a wing end plate. Like he had less arrow and he was
And
still
this is
putting time
Charles
on Signs' head.
who was like fighting for the championship. And like
Yeah.
the
And
thing is,
again, even
if
with that,
Red Bull are willing to make those sacrifices and you want to beat them, you have to be willing to beat them
yeah.
too.
And it's not even like we're saying Shaw didn't have pace, but we're saying just let him go through and drive first. Like, no, Shaw had pace. They were just waiting too long to figure it out. And again, as a Mercedes fan, I was happy. I was fine with it. But like just as somebody as an observer of this sport, you're like, this makes no sense. Like, you guys are and because of that, because we don't know. Maybe Shaw would have had enough of a lead that all of the events happening later, Shaw would have had maybe a better place. Maybe still everything would have happened. He would have ended up in the lead on hard tires, and he would have then had to do something. But at least in that case, maybe he would have built up enough of a buffer. Who knows? But like it could have been a completely different race. But they very specifically chose to throw it away. And then Signs got lucky that he was able to pit. They didn't pit Charles. He got softs. Signs had old hards, and he just slim easy pickings. And so Signs got super lucky, but still, regardless, like ultimately, like luck or not, the record books are going to show that he won the race. And so shout out to him. He got his first race win. That's super monumental. That's huge. And so I know he's happy. So
Yeah.
big ups to him. And but also big ups to Charles for having. He was basically doing what Lewis did last year at Jeddah, where he had a damaged car and he was still taking it to the faster car.
And obviously, like, we gotta big up Lando and like Carlos, because
Yeah.
finally now, like his bestie Lando, he also has a race win. Oh wait, his bestie doesn't have a race win? Then why is he opening his mouth saying it's about time? I'm serious. He was literally on the going, it's about time he got a race. Bros, not you talking. When
Oh,
you're
I mean,
afraid of the rain, when the
yeah,
sky opens and Jesus sends water, you run
this man
away.
just doesn't know how to not shave. Like he's so jealous. When he had the car and he had the moment, he squandered it. Okay, guess what?
So now he's so petty. He's so
Salt.
petty.
And his car is so bad this year, he can't see them getting better next year. Like he just sees his race winning chances just
The
fading. Well,
situation is
we
so
can we can
sad.
tell him maybe he'll be like Checo, and after many many years of being slightly better than average,
He
a
doesn't have
big
the
a
patience
good
to be a
team
checker.
a good team will pick him up, and he'll
More
get
like
lucky.
Grosjean. He doesn't have the patience to be a checker. Like podiums, no victory. More like more like
Anyway,
Grosjean.
so that was Ferrari. Ferrari as a team this weekend, they get a massive L. They
This
somehow won the
weekend,
race
every
and
weekend,
lost. They
every
somehow they
weekend.
somehow won the race and still lost the race. It makes no sense because no one believes Signs is in championship competition, and this race proves it. As we move on to let's talk about Red Bull now, because I think this is a great time with Red Bull, right? It was wonderful to see Max struggling. But you know what? I now know that my my mental, I'm having like a shift because this is the first time Max did horribly, and I wasn't excited, and that's because Mercedes had a chance to do so much better, and so Max doing bad wasn't the best outcome we could have, and so that's good
Literally.
because normally I wouldn't have minded, but we still got slight
Um,
vehicular terrorism from Max.
obviously, and him crying on the radio is obviously the best part of the weekend. So that was amazing. Yeah, honestly, nothing much really to say about Red Bull. Like Perez
No.
kind of just did his business, and
Yeah, I mean, he had a
he
good
did.
race,
He
but
also had a
that
a low
safety car,
terrorism, but
yeah.
obviously
But it's
his
Perez.
stewards were
Perez always
like,
has
"Is it
terrorism. I
Red
know
Bull?"
Perez always has terrorism. That's why I honestly like. I know I don't like Perez because of Ocon, and it's still true. But I
Oh
actually
my
don't like.
god, you're actually so petty.
I am, but I also actually don't like how he races. I genuinely don't like. I
If I
think
hear
he
someone
always
call
does
him
that kind of.
Minister of Defense one more time,
He's not that good. He just runs people off the road. He's always done this. He did it when he was teammates with Ocon back
oh my
Force
gosh,
India days. That's what he's always done. Like I'm
your
sorry.
beef with your beef with Perez is irrational.
I mean, look, honestly, like I don't hate
Anyways,
him. I don't hate Perez. I
I
just
know you don't
can't like
hate
him.
him.
But
I
like,
know.
and I've actually been going on to him a little bit more because if Red Bull has to be there, I'd rather be Perez. So sadly, Checo, you got a
Okay.
friend in me.
Before we finish up with Mercedes, I'd just like to point out how we did not discuss Fernando Alonso's race. And I'm fine with that. Let's move on.
Yeah,
On to
because
Mercedes.
he annoyingly got
I've,
fixed. So I don't want to even think
I
about
need a
it.
break from him, yes. Anyways,
But on that note, Ocon was really unlucky because he actually had good foresight, and then from when Albin hit the wall,
yeah.
the ricochet hit him, and so he wasn't able to finish the race, and it was super sad. But because of that, and this is the difference between, and again, I know they don't have control of, but like let's pretend they do. There's a difference between the TV and everyone else crashing, and then or crashing or causing safety cars, and Ocon, because Ocon has the foresight to know that, like, if I cause a safety car right here, Lewis now has a chance for the win. How's that for
Yeah.
conspiracy theories?
But anyways, moving on to Mercedes.
Yes.
Like, firstly, before I praise them for anything, I'm
Yeah.
gonna point out their fuck ups.
Yes,
One,
please. Please.
like I literally added, I was like,
Ugh.
I'm sure the Mercedes team doesn't know at Quick Stop F1 because they're allergic to them. And yeah, she thought I was criticizing, and he was like, yeah, but Lewis knows this. I was like, no, it was a joke. I meant because they're allergic to quick stops. And he was like, oh.
That's a good one.
But no, like, nah. What is that nonsense? Firstly, that cost him, and then he built it back up again. And
Yeah.
then the safety car tire twist cost him because the Mercedes and the soft tire was just not working in a
Yeah.
race simulation.
And that's the thing. It's like that. If it could have been even if like if it would have been a 1.5 seconds quicker, it would have been a 2.7. That would have put him either in between the two of them or just behind them. And so even if his tires weren't warm enough and they would have gapped a little bit, it wouldn't have been a
That
full
much.
solid
Yeah.
2 second gap. It would have been that much closer. And so he would have been able to do more. He would have been able to get into their slipstream sooner, and that would have dragged him in before he finally gets DRS.
Anyways, can we talk about that overtake? I know he got overtaken back, but that
It was
overtake,
beautiful. It was
through goes Lewis
beautiful.
Hamilton, was
When they
everything.
were fighting and the announcers were saying, "Oh, they better be careful because Lewis is right there," and like not but like 2 turns later,
And
zoom.
through goes Lewis Hamilton. It was absolutely epic.
It was beautiful.
Like I think it was a good race weekend for Mercedes. I think it could have been more.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mr. Consistency did not consistent.
I'll say this. I felt bad for him because if he hadn't run to the garage, if he had stayed by his car and done what everyone else tried to drag it back, he might have been able to continue. They might have
He
been because that's
didn't run
essentially
to
what
his
Ocon did.
garage though. He ran to go check on Joe
No, he
and
did
told
that,
the
but
marshals not to touch the car, and they touched it. That's why he's not. Because once the marshals touch your car, it's over.
so I felt bad for him because he couldn't do what everyone else did. I
I'm so
didn't feel bad.
happy it
I
happened
didn't
at
feel,
Silverstone too. I was so happy. I was literally jumping for joy.
but here's the thing: it's actually hilarious because that crowd, like it wasn't that they needed. It felt like they wanted the British, not just any old British driver to do well, but they wanted Lewis to do well. Like it wasn't
Of
like
course,
because Lando, I mean, he did well, but the way they were cheering, you wouldn't even know. You would have thought Lando was in the mud like Danny Rick, but like he wasn't. So it was a good race. But I agree with you. I think it was a good race for Mercedes. It was almost a good race for Lewis.
what I would like geriatric Lewis Hamilton, who is one hernia away from retirement, senior citizen, elderly home. He basically has spins as a nanny, has on the trot out-qualified his teammate and outraced him 2 races in a row. Someone who's basically on his way, and according to some learned people, should be, but no. Underdog Lewis Hamilton, second driver. He's the driver being used for all the experiments. That's the second driver.
That's why I say it was a good race for Mercedes, and it was
But
almost a magnificent race for Lewis.
race for Lewis, yeah, definitely.
Because the team
But
as a
I enjoyed
whole,
it.
they can be happy. No, it was really good.
Yeah.
The way I was screaming, the way I was shouting. My sister came down. My sister had gone to Home Depot when the race started because if she had seen when he had that start, I was loud. And then when he passed Checo and Charles, like man, my sister came from her room and she was like, "What are you?" Because she knew obviously I was like, he can go for the win. I was like, she was like, "Oh my god, what are you gonna do when he wins?" Like I was loud, loud.
It was
Oh
epic.
man.
It was epic.
So no, so it was good.
I
Anyway,
mean, it's night. It's like 3 a.m. in Dubai, so my
oh
body clock
gosh,
is
yeah, you're pretty tired.
nuts.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's do it. Do you have a star of the day? If it's the same, it's okay.
Lewis.
Yes, ma'am. It has to be the same. Look, the fans voted for Checo, and I get why they voted for Checo. I
I
get it.
didn't,
No, I get it,
but
but
I
I don't
didn't
care.
watch much of his race, so no.
But it's not
I
that.
don't know.
Again, Checo did good to get back to where he is, but he also has the fast. He's in the fastest car. If it wasn't for the safety car, he wouldn't have been there. Lewis himself was fighting for the win, and he didn't get the win because of vehicular terrorism for Checo. So, like, anyway, so moving on. Bum of the day,
Daniel Ricciardo.
Yuki. I'm sorry. He took his team. His team was running for the points, and he took them both out. He took them
That
out,
was funny. That was actually funny. Okay, start of the
and
week.
he just lost it. He just
Start
went
of
on
the
throttle
week.
too hard. He just lost it. He hit nothing. You know what? Nothing happened. He pulled a Vettel,
You're
except
taking.
worse
Oh,
because he took his teammate out. And I love this man. So stop it, Yuki. You can't do this 2 weeks in a row.
the Yuki chants at Silverstone were so good.
Yes.
Like they were. He had so many fans. It was amazing.
Yeah, and people love Yuki. Okay. And now fraud watch. I feel so currently our fraud watch is Mick, Latifi, Gasly, Ricardo, K Mag, and Yuki. Are we taking anyone off or are we gonna leave it alone?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Star of the week. I know you're ignoring it. I've mentioned it like 5 times now. Star of the week.
Oh, did you mention Star of the Week? I'm sorry, I didn't even hear you. You're so
Mhm.
soft today.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's different.
Oh, star moment of the week. That's a good one. What happened this week? Oh, I had some friends over from work, and it's the first time. So we kind of had a Stranger Things. So we all kind of hung out and we had a Stranger Thing. And it was a nice evening. Haven't had like friends who weren't like super thick come over. And then also got our dining set. So that's nice. So they were over on Friday and then we got our dining set just Saturday. I'll send you some photos. So yeah. What about you?
Okay.
Did you have
My
any?
aunt. She
Your
made my
aunt?
favorite meal for me when I got home. So
That's always good, especially when
influenced
they're
my
good
heart.
at it. That's lovely.
My mom gave the rest away, so I'm pissed about that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any race predictions for the Red Bull Ring, aka Austria?
Lewis win.
That's how I'm feeling.
Eventually, it's gonna come to pass, no?
I mean, this weekend it was there.
Yes.
Do you have a second and a third? I don't care about pole, just main race.
Okay. Lewis Ocon.
Ooh,
That's a guy
ma'am,
to me now.
ma'am.
Lewis Ocon Lando.
Okay. Oh, okay. I can. That's fair enough. I'm gonna
Lando
be very.
always peaks at Austria.
I'm gonna be very vanilla. He actually does though. That's actually
Mm.
true. I completely forgot about that. Why is he so good at that track? Anyway, let me say my thing and we'll wrap it up. For me, mine is very vanilla, but it is Lewis, Charles, and then Max. I just need Max to like get the least amount of these points because we need to start catching
Yeah,
up.
which is my DNFing, which is what I'm predicting.
Or the cars could be illegal, and then it'll be Lewis. Wow.
No,
Oh my God.
the
Lewis
illegal card
Alonso George.
they can still use it next week.
Okay.
So it's from France.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because otherwise it was going to be Lewis Alonso George, and the fact that I had to say that man's name is horrible. But
Yeah.
all right. Anyway,
Anyways,
so
I gotta go to bed.
thank you so much. You want to end us?
Of course. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us. I've had an absolutely brilliant time. Love you guys. Bye, darlings.
Bye.